Time, space, podcasting. It's more than a linear listening experience. It's a prism of endless possibility, where a single choice can lead you to listening to episodes you aren't prepared for, creating alternate worlds full of spoilers. I am Dakota. I am your guide through these vast new episodes. Follow me and my co-host Anthony and ponder the question, what if you listen to every one of our episodes? Please do. Please listen to every episode that we create. If you missed it, last week I actually ended the show singing in Latin the Potatoes and Molasses song. Very few people noticed that.
See, they need to know it. They need to listen to our episodes in full.
No, it's totally okay if you don't listen to every one of our episodes, because that's actually kind of what I was trying to get at. You know, some episodes you're not prepared for in terms of like, I haven't watched this title or I haven't read this book or whatever. And I think it's totally okay to skip podcast episodes of stuff that you want to get into. But usually we start our podcast on like a spoiler-free note, so that you get the opportunity to get a taste of what we're talking about before we actually talk about the structure of the story and stuff. So I think we're going to do a little bit of that this week. Not too much, because most of you guys have probably seen What If at this point. But Anthony, did you enjoy What If? Last time we spoke, you were only like just starting the show.
Right. Yeah, I thought it was interesting, and the way that the show was introed reminded me a lot like, it was kind of a lot like The Outer Limits or The Twilight Zone. The way that they like introed it, it had that feel to it.
Definitely had Twilight Zone vibes to me. Yeah, Outer Limits, that's an interesting one. Yeah, I could see that a little bit. But yeah, the idea of the Twilight Zone, you know, you are now entering the Twilight Zone. It kind of had that vibe to it. So we're going to talk a little bit about like, that.
Now you are entering the what if zone.
Basically, yeah. Like, welcome to the endless possibilities. My Jeffrey Wright impersonation for that intro was probably pretty bad, but I hope you enjoyed it a little bit.
This show was definitely interesting, and while we'll talk about it, the last couple episodes I was not expecting.
Yeah, that came out of nowhere. I think even for people who were really into like following what was coming next, because we had trailers for the show, so we knew that there were several episodes lined up. But we never expected, most people at least, I would say like 95% of the viewing audience did not expect the 3-part finale.
Right. So, it's interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, before we get into that, why don't we talk about what we've been up to? I know that I usually start that off, so how about this time, why don't you start off, Dakota? What have you been up to? I know that you went to New York Comic-Con this weekend. That's why we are recording late and that there's not an episode this week.
Right, yeah. So we are recording this on a Wednesday. Usually we record on Sundays. But yeah, I went to New York Comic-Con for the Sunday, and it was a lot of fun. Jen and I dressed up as Greg and Wirt from Over the Garden Wall. We had a lot of people like really happy. Just for the fact that, you know, we were characters that were semi-obscure in terms of like Comic-Con cosplay stuff. So that was pretty cool. I actually made my cloak, and it took me till 2 a.m.
You made it?
I made it. I bought cloth. I bought cloth from Joann's Fabrics. I stole my mother-in-law's sewing machine. I learned how to set up a sewing machine and use a sewing machine in a single night, and figured out how to make a work thing. So actually,
that's absolutely insane, Dakota. I don't think I would have ever have heard you and sewing in the same sentence.
I did it. Yeah, no,
that's
it was
crazy.
It was the most bizarre thing ever, but it took me forever because I was like really nervous about messing it up.
Right. No, I get that.
So it actually took me a very long time to complete. It took me till literally 2 a.m. where I finally put the buttons on and everything. And even like the next morning, I woke up at 6. And I was like, I put like the piece of fabric between the top buttons to like finish it off. And it turned out pretty good, I think. A lot of people were really happy. It was actually, there's something about making a kid smile or like making a kid's day, you know, like that I never experienced. I've cosplayed in the past with like characters like the Doctor and stuff. I did the 10th Doctor almost a decade ago at this point. I did the 10th Doctor. And that was a lot of fun.
Ago.
And I usually don't cosplay because I'm usually in the press junket, so to speak. You know, I usually get press passes, and I always feel a little awkward like dressing up for something like that when I'm doing interviews, and I just don't like doing it. So I haven't cosplayed in a very, very long time. This was really fun, and they were characters that kids recognized or were more interested in like taking pictures of. So Jen and I actually we kind of like joked about like if we do cosplay again in the future, we'll do characters that kids enjoy, because the fact that kids got so much enjoyment out of these crazy looking characters, their costumes, was really cool.
It's cool that you got some recognition.
Yeah, no, actually, to be honest, a lot of people knew who we were, or rather, it was more like the people who did know felt the need to come and say thank you for dressing up as that character. So that was pretty cool.
Right.
The hat made me like a 7-foot tall creature, because I'm already like 5'10", 5'11". So with like a 13 inch red hat, I was like 7 feet tall. So I was one of the tallest people in there. It was kind of like a beacon for some of the other people that were in our party, so that they didn't get lost. So it was actually kind of fun.
Yeah. No, that's cool. Yeah, I like the cosplay, and I even asked Jen if she sang potatoes and molasses, and she said no.
She did quote it. Like someone was asking like, I forget what it was, but she said like potatoes and molasses, right? Or something like that. So it was fun. It was a good time.
Adelaide Parade, you know?
Yeah. You know what? We did not like get into character. That's something that we didn't do. You know,
right.
like we kind of like played, like when we were like taking photo shoots and stuff, a lot of times I would like pretend like I was lost, like, you know, like I'm lost in the woods or whatever, like the characters Greg and Wirt. But
no, you have to really embrace the teen angst that Wirt has.
Right, and you know, I probably should have like sang a little song, and right, yeah. But it was a good time. I really enjoyed it. We didn't do any panels or anything. Nothing was really like drawing our interest that day. We were also with friends who were at Comic-Con for the first time ever, so that was a fun experience for them. Overall, I had a good time. In terms of what I've been up to, like content-wise, we have actually restarted My Hero Academia, the show, not the manga.
Oh, nice. Jen's watching?
She's watching too. Yeah,
that's cool.
It's
good.
It works well because we've decided to do it dubbed. I usually watch all my anime subbed, but because she's doing like homework at the same time, she wants to listen in. So
yeah, I've noticed that. I'm the same way. I love subbed. Don't get me wrong. But usually when I'm watching anime, I'm doing something else, so I have to watch it dubbed. But if I can actually sit down and watch an anime, I'll try to watch it subbed. Yeah, so
we're only 3 episodes in, but it's a good time. Also, Ted Lasso finished, finally.
I know. It seemed like it kind of ran on a little bit longer this time.
Because it was a 12-episode season. Yeah, it was a long season, which is unusual. Usually those types of shows are 10 episodes,
right,
at the most, you know. But it was a good season. I think it was a little weaker than the first season, in terms of like just the overall direction and everything. But I'm satisfied with it. I'm actually making a video about how I think some of the characters relate to characters from the Miyazaki movie Spirited Away.
Oh wow. Yeah, this season was a little bit darker.
Yeah, especially when it comes to Nate. I realized like in like episodes 10 or 11 that he's going down the same path that the character of No Face went down in Spirited Away. I don't know if you were familiar with the characters in Spirited Away.
Yeah, no. I love those movies.
I'm gonna probably make a video about it soon, but they kind of follow the same path, you know. Both Nate and Chihiro are characters that are like kind to a fault, and they were kind to these individuals that were overlooked, like Nate and No Face. In No Face's case, he was allowed into the bathhouse through Chihiro, and with Ted Lasso, he was allowed into the coaching ring, basically, after he was basically a water boy. And they were given these opportunities, but both of the characters, Ted Lasso and Chihiro, are characters that have other stuff going on in their lives. They're both trying to save their family or reclaim their family.
Right.
And when it comes to Nate and No Face, they become fixated upon like the success that they're receiving from others, but they're not receiving it from their original benefactors like Chihiro and Ted Lasso, and that kind of throws them into a dark path. And I think it's interesting comparing the two, so I wanted to do an in-depth video about it.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting video.
What else have I been up to? I've been up to a lot since the last time we spoke. I did a Visions timeline. You can check that out in the show notes. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I did start. There's a book that came out yesterday, as we're recording on Wednesday. There's a book that came out called Ronin, and it follows the main character from the Vision story, The Duel.
Oh, nice.
So it's that samurai dude who's like a Sith, and it's basically like the continuing story of like what happens after that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. I'm enjoying it so far. I'm only maybe a third of the way into it, but yeah, I'm enjoying that. So that's what I've been up to. It's it's a lot. Comic-Con, couple books, video, whatever. But what have you been up to, Anthony?
Oh man, I've been gaming pretty hard this week. On October 8th, Metroid Dread ended up dropping, and I've been playing that. It's really cool. I love that it's a direct sequel to Metroid Fusion, which is actually my favorite Metroid game. It's not so Metroid Fusion is probably the most linear out of all the games, but I don't know, there's something about it that I thought was like really, really cool. I think it was a game that kind of brought a freshness to the series, and so now that this is a direct sequel to that, it's really cool because it's almost like, oh my gosh, it's like a love note to like all the Fusion fans, you know.
So is it as linear as the original Fusion, or no?
No. This one you're definitely wandering around. It took a little while for me to get the morph ball, and when I finally got that, I was like, yes, dude, because there's so many areas that you can't access without the morph ball, and when you finally get it, you're like, okay, thank you. The boss fights, definitely as challenging as a Metroid game can be.
I remember Metroid Prime was the last one that I played, and that's 20 years ago at this point. But I remember the boss fights were just next level.
Yeah, Metroid boss fights are like really hard. I mean, imagine how hard it was for you. The side-scrolling ones are just absolutely insane. I was actually surprised I was able to beat the first boss in the first time, but the second boss that I came across, dude, I'm 2 runs deep into it and I still haven't beaten it. It's pretty hard.
Okay, cool. I mean that's kind of, I miss games that are hard to beat.
Yeah.
I feel like too many games nowadays you can get by on a single playthrough, or you'll die a couple times, but you pop up right there,
Right, yeah. You usually like maybe die 1 or 2 times, but I mean, Metroid, this is one of those games that unless you're highly skilled or you're really good at reading the patterns, which I'm starting to get to that point with the second boss. Yeah, man, it's just it's tough. You're gonna die quite a few times. But and then aside from that, and it's funny because a lot of people, or like people that might not understand gamers so much, I'm also playing a game called New World that dropped a couple weeks ago, and it's an Amazon game. It's Amazon's MMO that they have been working on. And
okay, so Amazon the company,
yeah, like Amazon.
They've been working,
2-day shipping Amazon,
Oh, yeah. They got their toes in everything, bro.
They really have.
I was space.
I was a little skeptical at first because the first game that they dropped didn't pan out so well, and they ended up actually pulling that game. I think they're working on it. I forgot what it was called. I mean, that's how like unimpressed most of us were. I didn't even remember the game. But New World, it's got a lot of work that it needs to go through, but I'm still enjoying it. Like, it's pretty buggy.
What is the setting? Like, is it fantasy? Is it sci-fi? Is it more
So
real
it's
world?
interesting. It's like, so New World, when you think of the name, it kind of makes me think of like, you know, Coming to America. But it's like, yeah, so it's a fantasy setting, but instead of, you know, just like swords and shields and bows and, you know, even staffs, they have they even have like muskets in there too. So
okay, yeah, I mean that kind of fits with the times, I guess, a little bit. Might be or you know, a century off or so, but yeah.
So it's really interesting because the way that I would describe the game, and you would like this, and too bad it's not out for Mac just yet. Maybe down the line they'll end up releasing it for Mac. But think of RuneScape. It's got a huge RuneScape vibe to it, but like upgraded. Because they have different skills. Yeah, dude, they have different skills like gathering skills, logging, smelting, blacksmithing. Like RuneScape had a lot of those different skills, and each town has like its own like little economy to it. And like their auction house is like an auction house specific to that town that you're in, and the taxes specific to that town. You can buy houses. I would say it's a blend between RuneScape and Elder Scrolls Online. It's kind of like the baby of those two. But like that RuneScape vibe of that game like really drew me to it, and so I've been really enjoying it. I have a little crew that I've been running with, and we've been questing together. I think it's a game that you would appreciate. It's just a shame that it's not out on Mac, at least like not right now. Hopefully it does release on Mac, because it's something that you only drop $40 on it. There's no monthly subscription to it. I think that the way that they're probably going to make money is like maybe like some games that you can buy like cosmetics and stuff. I hope that they don't go like, you know, a pay to win route or anything. I just hope that, you know, say that, hey, you want this like really cool like skin for your weapon or whatever, that it's like something like that. But so far it's really fun.
I feel like companies are getting the hint that people don't like pay to win, even though they get more money that way. They definitely get more money with pay to win schemes, because you'll get like
the
rich kids with you get whales, you get rich kids with their daddy's credit card just spending hundreds of dollars for nonsense just so that they can beat a match or whatever.
Right, that's why PvP and gacha games are just like absolutely trash.
Exactly. No, it's true. It is true. But when it comes to respect, I find that a lot of gamers choose not to play those games, or don't respect the games to the extent that they should. Like, I don't think, while it did recover a little bit, I don't think that Battlefront 2 ever fully recovered from the scandals that they incurred from their pay-to-win scheme and everything from a couple years back.
Right. Like, I mean, there's still kind of like a lingering crowd there, and I think that No Man's Sky kind of fell prey not to the pay-to-win thing, but releasing when it was underdeveloped, and then now it's in a place where it's actually really good, where I would say the same thing with Battlefront 2. Battlefront 2 is actually in a place where it's really good, but it's hard for people to come back and enjoy that because they're kind of scorned with that. I mean, I wish it was absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't blame Disney for really not trusting EA with their games, and now that they're kind of going out and expanding to you know, other developers. And let me tell you, the fact that they're doing a Knights of the Old Republic not remaster, a remake is, I mean, dude, I've been swearing that game up and down.
For years, since we were kids.
Yeah, if you ever snag a PS5, that's definitely a game that you need to get. Because it is, dude, it is everything that you want in a Star Wars RPG.
Yeah, no, I totally want to play that, and I totally want to get into it, especially with the remake coming up. I think I might get the because they're porting it onto the Switch soon.
Yeah, if you get that,
you mentioned a couple. You mentioned a couple games like No Man's Sky. I actually liked No Man's Sky when it first came out.
I didn't.
It was interesting enough. What's that?
I didn't hate it either. It could have been better, but I think it was interesting enough to where
it was a fresh enough experience that I wanted to keep playing, even though it was a very repetitive experience.
Right. You know, it's funny. Is because there's some of these games that are like universally hated that I still found fun in. The same thing happened with Fallout 76. Absolutely hated, but me and Miguel,
your friend, yeah,
my friend Miguel, we played together, dude. We built our little homes and stuff, and we went out and quested together, bro. We found our fun, you know, just because. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to excuse anything from a developer. But, you know, just because something isn't liked by others, and even if it's universally disliked by others, doesn't mean that there's not maybe a small group of people that still enjoy it, you know?
And what I really appreciate about No Man's Sky, even though they definitely released way, way, way too soon.
Yeah.
There has been a significant audience for the game for the past, 5 or 6 years since it's been out. I think 5 years at this point. And there have been a number of like updates and expansions that have totally changed the shape and scope of the game, like completely and totally. So I think that that's really commendable that they were able to like just keep going with the game, because the company had a plan. They had a vision. They just were too early in releasing. But there were their fans. There were people who just kept playing, and I respect that.
Right, and you didn't even have to pay for this content either.
No, it was free.
It was free. It's free. I think that they were like, we messed up, but we're gonna fix it, and you're not gonna have to pay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I will say it was one of the coolest things that I did like in No Man's Sky, I mean, besides going to different systems, was when you're entering and leaving a planet. It was so cool. Because, like, I mean, that's something that we've wanted in a space game. It's just a lot of the other stuff wasn't executed in the correct way.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree.
But yeah, no, I was gonna say, but yeah, that's really like what I've been up to. I've been gaming. I mean, I caught up on What If. I made sure that I had a fresh watch in for our discussion. We're 27 minutes in to the discussion. I don't know if you have anything else you want to say, Dakota. I'm ready to talk about the topic of discussion this week.
Perfect, because I was gonna say we should probably table our discussion of video games and stuff for the time being. But yeah, I'm excited to go into What If a little bit. So let's talk about the show as a whole. Let's try to keep it non-spoilery for those of us who haven't listened to it or watched it rather. Overall, what are your thoughts? What did you like and what did you dislike?
I think that it was pretty cool that it's like an alternate timeline, and the way that they set it up is, like I said, it's kind of like Outer Limits or the Twilight Zone, whereas they kind of set up like, okay, this is how this story panned out, but what if this is how it panned out? This is the like an alternate timeline. And I thought it was really, really cool. There were some episodes that kind of bored me a little bit. I felt my mind wandering a little bit in some of the episodes. But overall, I thought it was a pretty cool show. And the way that they ended it was pretty cool. I overall, I thought it was pretty cool the way that they ended it.
I think, yeah, you mentioned a couple things in your spoiler-free review that I want to touch on. Specifically, like, there are some things there's some episodes that are just kind of boring compared to the others.
Right.
And I think it's mostly boring on a rewatch. You know, if you already know what the catch is for the episode, or you already know, like, what the twist is, it's no longer as exciting of a watch. But even on a first viewing, there's some episodes that just don't stick with you.
Right.
Week for week. And for like those of us who were watching week by week, I know you started like only a couple weeks ago, but for those of us who were watching all 9 weeks, it was really kind of a drag in some instances where you'd get an episode and you're just like, all right, that was entertaining. And then like the next day would pass and you're like, I don't even remember what happened. To be honest, you know, it wasn't anything special.
Right.
But
yeah, no, I would say that I don't know if I would see myself watching this again.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe down the line, if I'm like, you know, maybe I want to give it a second try and see if I judged it too harshly on the first watch.
Right. And I don't want to say that it's a bad show. Because I don't think that it is. Especially for a cartoon. The fact that they were able to bring all of these actors back, and not every actor, but a lot of the actors were the original cast from the movies. That's awesome.
Right, and
the
you
fact
can
that they
hear
were
it
able to
too.
pull that. Yeah, totally. And I really think that that's commendable, that they reached out and they probably paid the price for each of those different actors, especially the bigger ones that are in there as well.
Yeah.
Like, you know, Chris Hemsworth is in there. We had Chadwick Boseman.
I know, thankfully. Man. I think this is like the last thing that he did, right?
I think that he did other stuff for like Netflix, but in terms of T'Challa, this was the last thing that he did.
Wow, man. Yeah, they had Michael B. Jordan in there also.
I like the Michael B. Jordan episode.
I thought that was pretty cool. I think something that I liked about the show was that they took movies, and you can recognize what movie it is, and then they kind of combined it with other movies.
Sure. Yeah, I see what you're saying. And that's as much of a cool thing as I think is a limitation for the show in a way. I don't know if you follow, but like sometimes I felt like they were trying to twist off of the movies so much that they didn't try too much new stuff.
Right.
You're going like into new realities. I want to meet new characters. I want to see new planets and everything. But a lot of times they would kind of stick to what we already know and just twist it a little bit to the point where the story was a new story. And that's fine. I liked that. It wasn't anything.
Right.
And it wasn't anything crazy.
And I, in a way, I kind of guess that I understand why. Because they're saying what if on storylines that we already know instead of they're not treading into territory that they haven't gone into just yet. They wanted to still maintain things that were recognizable. Because right off the bat, like you could recognize the setting for like a lot of these things, or like where they got it from.
Right, and just to give, I guess like a brief overlook of like what those settings are, the movies that they were kind of jumping off of. The first episode, we follow the story of
the first
Captain America, the First
yeah.
Avenger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Captain America, the First Avenger. We have, instead of Steve Rogers getting the Super Soldier Serum, it's Peggy Carter, and it's Agent Carter who becomes the super soldier for America, and she ends up having like a British flag on her, the Union Jack on her shield and everything. So
right, she ended up actually becoming, and we'll talk more about it. That was actually, it's not like, obviously it's like not an amazing episode, but I will say that it is a lot better than some of the episodes in the show.
I think that it was a good way to start the show because it let you know where the show was headed. There were subtle changes from the original formula of the movies that totally shifted the total outcome of the whole. And most of these stories are disconnected from one another, mainly because they all exist in different universes. You know, now we're dealing with the multiverse of possibilities, and sometimes it's
Thank
a
you,
very
Loki.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for opening up the multiverse for us to play in. But it's interesting that sometimes the stories are very similar to stories that we've experienced, and some are totally different.
Yeah.
But they always start from a point where we can kind of feel what story they're like jumping off from, you know, like you can tell, like, oh, this movie is jumping off from the first Thor movie, or this movie is jumping off from the Fury's Big Week stuff, like Iron Man 2 and the Incredible Hulk and stuff, or stuff like that.
Yeah, dude, I have a thought on that one. I actually enjoyed that episode.
Okay, good. I think I enjoyed every single one of these episodes, but some were a lot weaker than others.
Yeah. You know, so if you're at this point and you haven't actually watched the show, don't take our criticisms of the show like to heart. I would say watch it and formulate your own thoughts on it. I think that some people may enjoy more than both Dakota and I, like certain episodes, or some people may like absolutely love the entirety of the series as a whole, you know? And
yeah, I
if
totally
you
agree
haven't
with that.
seen it, I suggest to go and watch it. I do think it's a cool spin on different movies that we have seen throughout the MCU, and even they do add some newness to it.
And it is canonical in terms of the multiverse, you know, even though it's not happening on the sacred timeline that Loki explained was the case. These take place within the greater multiverse that spans off of the sacred timeline. So whether or not these stories come into play, or these characters from these stories come into play in future movies or future shows, we don't know at this point. We can guess, and you know, we can like look at some rumors or whatever. But I highly recommend just checking it out. It may not be for you, but it is for a lot of people. And I've noticed that online, especially on Twitter, you'll see opinions that like range the gamut. Some people's favorite episodes are other people's least favorite episodes.
Right.
Some people love the show. Some people think it's like bottom tier MCU. It's really all up to the like your personal tastes. And I'm kind of like right there. I'm kind of right there in the middle. You know, I have a lot to criticize, but I have a lot to praise at the same time. So I think I think this conversation is going to be good because we're both kind of in the middle. I think, Anthony. Am I?
Yeah,
am I
no,
right?
I would agree. Yeah, I was gonna say that. I'm in the middle. I watched the show. I liked it, but I didn't love it. That's
Sweet.
where I'm at on that. You know. So,
totally feel you.
But yeah, no, you said that well. It's different from person to person. Don't take what we say to heart
as word. You know?
Yeah, as word. You know, if you enjoyed the show, you know what? It's great for you. I think it's important that if you enjoy it, you enjoy the heck out of it. You know, do you?
We're getting a second season either way. Both of us are going to watch it.
Yeah,
You're
of
course.
Of course.
Yeah. All right, so let's jump into spoilers. You want to go episode by episode, Anthony, or you want to just talk about it as a whole, or what?
We'll be back after a quick break.
I hate talking.
Do you love talking about any topic and are never frustrated during conversations? Then I Hate Talking is not a podcast for you.
But if there are topics that you avoid, then listen to I Hate Talking.
Do you know the definition of every word others use? I Hate Talking is not a podcast for you.
But if you are curious about the definition and historical usage of words, then listen to I Hate Talking.
Do you know about current events and other random topics? Then I Hate Talking is not a podcast for you.
But if you enjoy conversations on a variety of topics, then listen to I Hate Talking.
Listen to I Hate Talking wherever you get your podcasts.
Episodes drop every Thursday. Listen, like, and follow I Hate Talking today.
So, I mean, I guess we could kind of, because the episodes are kind of different, we could talk episode by episode, but I don't want to go
too deep.
I want to go like deep enough to where we talk about it, but like I don't want to go too detailed, because I mean our episodes get a little crazy.
Yeah,
we
all right,
get a little longer than they sometimes they get a little longer than they need to.
All right, 9 episodes. First episode: What if Captain Carter were the first Avenger? I think You mentioned that you liked this episode quite a bit. I'm kind of about it. I think the first Avenger is an okay movie.
Oh yeah, no, that movie was all right. I think the reason why I liked it was that it showed that Peggy Carter is actually a pretty good alternative. She's almost like Steve Rogers,
I mean, I think she was, at least in this episode, entirely as capable as Steve Rogers,
Right.
as brave and stuff. And I think that's why they make the perfect match, Steve Rogers and Peggy Carter. And I think they realize that even before Steve Rogers has a super soldier serum, Peggy Carter really respects Steve. And I don't know if it's a romantic like or whatever, but she really, I guess, cares for him on a deep level because of his heart, Steve Rogers, that is. And I think it goes the other way around as well. And this episode shows like how strong she is, both mentally and physically.
Right. And it essentially follows kind of, it doesn't show the entirety of the movie. I mean, the episodes would be way too long, but it kind of follows certain beats of the film. And it's funny, Steve Rogers, since he's the one that doesn't take the serum, he fights along Peggy in this thing that's essentially the Hulk Buster, but they call it the Nazi Smasher.
The Hydra, was it Hydra?
Hydra Smasher or something like that.
Something, yeah. Hydra Pounder, Hydra Smasher, something
it's
like
something
that.
along that. Yeah. But it's almost like an early prototype to the Hulk Buster.
I'm looking it up now. Hydra Stomper.
Hydra Stomper.
Yeah,
There
so we just had it. But I actually did like that a lot. I like that because it just goes to show how, if
like Steve Rogers still had that heart there. It was it was literally Captain America without the muscles.
Yeah, instead he had like an iron hide. But what I love is that because
This is the first Iron Man suit.
Howard Stark had the ability to make the Iron Man suit a lot earlier because he had the ability to use the Tesseract, the Space Stone in the suit. And that I would love to see what happens in that universe after the point. Like,
yeah, that'd be cool.
Is there like a bunch of like super suits that just start popping up over the years instead of post 2008 like we have in in Iron Man? But now that we have it like in the 40s, is there just a whole history of other Iron Man suits from other people? So I that's something that I really want to see play out. Maybe they'll retouch on that episode in season 2, but I'm really excited to see more of that side of it. As far as what I was saying earlier, the first Avenger really isn't my favorite movie. I think it's unique in that it's a movie that actually gets boring the moment just after Captain America gets his superpowers. And the first time I say that, a lot of people kind of like balk, but it's kind of true because he gets his superpowers, he chases down some villain, and then for the next 30 minutes he does nothing. He like dances on stage and stuff for troops, and then it becomes kind of like a montage of stuff that he does with the army. And it's cool, the montage is sweet and all, but I don't like the montage setting. So it's kind of one of those movies that it's in a weird spot for me. I like it on repeat viewings more than I did on the original viewing. And I think it's the same thing with this episode, What If Captain Carter, with the first Avenger.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen the first Avenger, but I will say that maybe it's not the strongest MCU film, but it was necessary.
Oh, absolutely. And it totally influences how we appreciate Steve as a person and how he acts in future movies in general. So it is necessary.
Yeah. It really it establishes Chris Evans' role as Steve Rogers / Captain America, and I mean, it really does show you that they picked a good actor for that role.
Now, I don't want to focus too much on the first Avenger.
Right.
Movie,
No, of course.
because we're talking about Peggy Carter at this point.
Right.
But
I
I love what Haley Atwell did with this part, because you could tell she was having so much fun.
Yeah. No, of course.
She came back. She was having a good time.
You could hear it in their voice.
Yeah, Chris Evans did not return for any appearances this season, but yeah, Haley Atwell did a fantastic job, and she totally played the part well. I thought it was a really fun twist, if anything. You know, it may not have been my favorite episode, but it was a fun twist that I liked seeing play out.
I think that it was a decent first episode to start the series off with.
All right, let's jump into episode 2. What if T'Challa became Star-Lord? What are your thoughts on this one?
I thought this one was fun, but like, okay, so there's certain aspects of it that I thought was like pretty funny, like the intro, you know, like in the intro of Guardians of the Galaxy, where it was Quill, that guy, I forgot his name, was essentially like, "Who are you?" But then, in this instance, he was like, "Oh, I know who you are. You're Star-Lord." Like, he's like trying to take down Star-Lord, but praising him at the same time.
It was a fun, yeah. It was quirky and it was kind of fun. I do love the reverence that even this cartoon shows. Like, there was no way that they would have known that Chadwick Boseman was gonna die. He didn't tell anyone about his cancer.
Right.
So the fact that they made a whole thing showing how important T'Challa is to the universe was really cool.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the story stands out, like, above the rest of them. You know, they really respected the character a lot, and it shows in the final. You know, there were times where I was watching this and thinking that this is the last time I'm gonna see T'Challa, and I got a little teary eyed. You know.
Yeah.
I think by the end where Yondu was basically saying it doesn't matter where you are, you're going to make a positive difference. You're going to belong no matter where you are. That hit me, you know. And then the little afterword at the end of the episode, you know, like for a friend and stuff. That was nice.
Yeah. What are your thoughts about Thanos just being a casual character in this one?
Oh, that's kind of the power of it, you know. I think it does.
And he was an ally. He was an ally in this one. Like, he was like essentially like, and I like how casually he would talk about like his, like what he wanted to do, you know, with the Infinity Gauntlet. Like, oh, you know, and like everybody's like, that's genocide. That's wrong.
Right. So, and his response was, "Oh no, it's totally at random. It's not genocide."
But yeah, that was funny.
What I love about that in particular is it shows, and I think this is one of the episodes that shows this the most. It's a matter of like butterfly effect, you know, like what if one thing was changed, the rest of the universe is suddenly changed. With T'Challa now Star-Lord, who's capable of talking to people like Thanos on a level that they can understand and like talk them out of their master plan, that changes the entire fate of the galaxy. And you know, without him being a big bad guy, we have the Collector who becomes the big bad guy, and so on and so forth. Everyone was changed in this story.
Yeah. Yeah, and it shows also that like they took the wrong child, because he wanders away from Wakanda.
Yeah, I felt bad for Peter just like hanging out, you know, cleaning up in Dairy Queen.
Yeah.
It is funny though. It's the same. If you remember from Guardians of the Galaxy 2, it's the Dairy Queen that Ego took Peter's mother to, and behind that's where they put his like little seed thing that like became a unique point in that movie or whatever. So maybe that's why Peter was called to that area. I don't know. I have to like look into it.
And the cool difference that I liked also was that T'Challa had like really two supportive parental figures. Like Yondu was like, you know, like I really do, you know, he really cares about T'Challa, and so does his actual parents, you know.
Yes. Yeah, we go back to Wakanda after a certain point, and they all kind of meet up again, and it does have a happy ending.
Yeah, no, it really does. After a crazy scuffle with the Collector.
Yeah. So, what are your thoughts overall on this episode? I think you mentioned it at the start, like it's fun, but it's not your favorite. But like overall, what do you think?
Overall, I thought it was good. I definitely don't think it's like one of the weaker episodes. Like it's like definitely fun to watch. It's funny to see these alternate versions of characters like Thanos.
Yeah.
Just like kind of like a casual character. And an ally of Star-Lord.
Yeah, the fact that they brought characters back like Josh Brolin and Karen Gillan to reprise their roles, it's so fun.
Yeah,
it's so fun.
We get the Guardians are kind of different because, oh my gosh, you meet Drax, but he's like a bartender.
Yeah, and that's not Dave Bautista. It sounds like him, but it isn't. He didn't. He and what's his name? Chris Pratt did not reprise their roles for the show for whatever reason. But we do get all the Guardians except for Rocket and Groot. I don't think we saw them throughout the show.
Did we not? I feel like I don't think I remember Groot, but I feel like I remember Rocket, but I could be going crazy. I don't know.
You could be going crazy because you are going crazy. We didn't see Rocket. Anyway. All right, let's move on. As far as what I thought about that episode, I liked it a lot, actually. It wasn't as strong script-wise for me as some of the other episodes, but I did like what it was trying to represent, or what it was trying to get across, Like, it's better to have a conversation than to fight it out.
Right.
And for the sake of morals, I appreciate that episode more than other episodes, I guess. All right, episode 3. What if the world lost its mightiest heroes? This is the one where we get the slow death of a number of our Avengers characters. Starts with Tony Stark, then it goes into it goes into Thor, and then Clint Barton, and then Hulk, and then
Black Widow, this is like a mashup of movies. Like you see, like it's got like that little small bit of Iron Man 3, The Incredible Hulk, just like really and Thor, and so this one I actually enjoyed because it had that that mysterious aspect to it. It was like a mystery.
Okay, yeah.
I called that one Fury's horrible week.
It kind of was, because everything, all his plans were like just like destroyed. His best friends were killed. It was just terrible. And then it ends with Loki taking over the world, basically. But when it comes to Loki's big week, when it comes to Fury's big week,
that was Loki's big week.
It was Loki's big week, but I kind of am happy that they did that, because it confirms, basically. So as a timeline guy, I love Marvel timelines. I love timelines in general. Marvel Studios has ever only released one official timeline, and that's just before the Avengers movie. They showed the events of the first 5 movies on a timeline, and a bunch of it occurred in a 1-week period, and it was called Fury's Big Week, and it was Iron Man 2, The Incredible Hulk, and Thor. And these movies were all supposed to take place concurrently, but there was never really too much explanation as to how this all fit together. So this episode actually confirmed that it was 1 week altogether, and that these stories connected in this way through Fury and Coulson, basically. So I really like that.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this episode because it makes you think, who could it have been taking out these different Avengers, and like really the ending, in all honesty, surprised me. Yeah, it really did surprise me.
That's cool though. Did you get it when he said Hope or no?
Yeah, I was thinking Hope Van Dyne, but like I was like, why would the Wasp be
attacking people?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and
No, it's
technically it was, but not the Wasp that you thought it would have been.
Right, yeah, it's almost like a Yellow Jacket suit that Hank Pym was wearing. So in this episode, the Nexus point appears to be, in the first episode it was Peggy Carter taking the serum. In the second episode it was T'Challa being taken instead of Peter Quill. And then this episode, it appears to be before everything that we see on screen, where Hope Van Dyne decides that she's going to join the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And because of that, she ends up dying early, which makes Hank Pym bitter, which makes Hank want to destroy Fury and his whole plan for the universe, the Avengers and everything. So I kind of liked how they didn't necessarily show what exactly the Nexus event was in this one, but they did they explained how it came to be.
Yeah. When that confrontation happens.
Right.
Which is crazy that Nick Fury and Loki kind of come up with this partnership to fool that person.
And it actually does, it feels very genuine at the time. Like, if you go back and rewatch that episode, everything that Nick Fury says is so not Nick Fury. Like, when Hank is like, "You never cared about her," and then Nick Fury goes, "I never cared about any of them."
Yeah,
that's Loki talking. It's not.
Yeah.
It's Loki talking. It's not Nick Fury. So I love that kind of stuff. I like that they brought back a lot of the original casts. We have Mark Ruffalo as Bruce Banner. We have Clint Barton. What's the actor's name?
Yeah. You can hear his voice.
One thing that I noticed, they did not bring back Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow, but it sounds just like her. Whoever that actress is sounds just like Scarlett Johansson.
Right. And didn't they bring back what's her name from Incredible Hulk? Bruce Banner's
Liv
lover?
Tyler?
Yeah, didn't they bring her back?
No, it wasn't her.
It wasn't?
It wasn't. I looked it up. It wasn't. I looked it up just a second ago, right before we started. But it's not her. It does sound like her. They did a good job with that too. One thing that I did not expect to see in that episode was the Hulk exploding.
Yeah, I know.
That was disgusting.
And when I saw him kind of bulking up and it looked like he was about to explode, I'm like, man, what is that going to look like?
Right, and it just turned into Bruce juice.
Right. It was like gamma gas or something. It looked so crazy.
Like foam. Yeah, that was disgusting. But overall, the episode was fun. Again, it's not my favorite. It's probably bottom 3 for me, and just because I think on repeat viewings, which I just rewatched it a couple hours ago, it doesn't hold up as much now that you know who the villain is, basically.
Right.
So, I will tell you, the next episode is probably top tier. Might be my favorite. It's what if Doctor Strange lost his heart instead of his hands. Before I talk about it, what about you? What did you think?
You know, I'm gonna be honest. That episode was a little boring for me.
Really? Okay.
Because I mean, it was cool and all, but it was the same thing, really, over and over. And I understand where they were getting at with that. The ending was pretty cool. I don't know. It's just for most of it, it kind of it was a little bit of a snooze fest for me.
I feel you.
Really his quest for power. It almost it kind of paralleled Darth Vader a little bit, Anakin. He's
it did.
I'm not going to. I'm not gonna let her die. I'm not gonna let her die. And him trying to do different things and all that stuff. I mean, stuff like that was cool. I thought it was cool. It wasn't my favorite though, because it kind of dragged on a little bit for me. I think it was a little bit longer than it needed to be.
It's interesting you talk about Vader, because we'll talk more about that later on as we discuss some of the other episodes.
I was expecting a no.
I mean, basically he did do that at the end.
Yeah.
But the reason I like this episode is because I love Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah, no, he's a fantastic Doctor Strange.
He's fantastic. His voice is great. And ultimately, the story behind this is just, I think, more interesting than most of them, even though it is repetitive. And I do agree with you there. I like, after the first couple times of him like trying to save Christine Palmer, I'm like, all right, I get it. It's not going to happen, you know? But it happens like 10 times, you know? They go through different scenarios, and each time it gets a little bit worse and worse for him mentally, until he's at a point where he's just like, I can't do it. I need more power or something. And like Anakin, he feels that he should be more powerful to save the people that he loves. Now, I do want to talk about absolute points versus Nexus points.
Or
Nexus events, yeah. This is something that I think is worth touching upon, because it's something that really bothered me. Even though I love this episode, it doesn't gel well with what we know from Loki. So with Loki, it was actually written after What If. Even though Loki came out before What If, Loki was written and recorded far after What If was made. So
I think Loki had to come out first, though, for the show to like really work.
Sure, but I think this is where a certain plot hole comes in. Loki gave us the idea of Nexus events or Nexus points, where that's where this timeline breaks off of the sacred timeline. You know, in What If, there's not necessarily a sacred timeline, but the Watcher does agree that there is a correct path that should be followed, that is branched off in these different realities. But within the sacred timeline, and that Loki says, a Nexus event is something that happens that shouldn't happen, creating a new timeline. Now, this is the only episode that something isn't a Nexus event, but it takes place in an alternate reality. And it is very confusing to try and explain to someone. But basically the point is, Nexus events can be reversed. You can go back, you can delete what happens in the Nexus event and go back to the main reality. But in this episode, we have absolute points. It's kind of like in Doctor Who, they have fixed points in time, you know? And I think it's the end of time and the waters of Mars back in the end of the 10th Doctor's era. We have the 10th Doctor trying to rebel against fixed point in times, but it doesn't work for him. It just makes his time as the Doctor end quicker, basically. So when it comes to this episode and absolute points, the idea of an absolute point is something that has to happen in this reality that cannot be changed. So it's not something that you can go back in time to fix. This is something that has to happen, but it was never something that happened on the sacred timeline. So it can't be a fixed point on the sacred timeline. So why does this exist? You can't go back any further, as we saw in this episode, to create a Nexus event. So it's just something totally different. Now we have two ideas of like branched realities. One is an absolute point, one is a Nexus event. Nexus events allow you to reverse time to fix what's happening. Absolute points don't allow you to change what happens. It has to happen. So it's just a confusing paradox of ideas because the shows were written out of order.
Right. It's kind of like an absolute point is kind of like, it's like rubber banding. It's like no matter what direction they go, they always end up back to that point. Exactly.
And I think the issue that I have is that this is the point that never happened on the sacred timeline. You know, in Doctor Strange, it was never an issue. Like, no matter what happened, Christine Palmer wasn't going to die.
Right, right. It was always if anything, the absolute point would have been him getting into the car accident and him losing his hands.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. So as far as that goes, I think that it maybe should have been ironed out after Loki came out or whatever, but whatever. It's what's done is done. I appreciate the story a lot. I thought it was really heartwarming, or heartwarming is the wrong word. I felt bad for him.
Yeah.
You know? He clearly loves this person. He's not able to save them. And it's just a downward cycle into him like absorbing, you know, the spirits of mystical creatures trying to gain more power. And it just becomes the end of his universe, basically.
Right, and it was a little tough to see Doctor Strange like that too, because you're so used to. And I mean, I know that he's had his like dark moments, but at least like in the MCU, you know, he's pretty much good.
He's a more rigid character. He's a little more structured in like what he's allowing himself to do versus what he would allow, you know, or what you would expect a villain to do. And what he was doing, you know, absorbing the souls of different creatures, was definitely a villainous thing to do.
Yeah. It was like obviously the stuff that you saw him doing, like you obviously knew that it wasn't the right thing.
Right. I also, you know, just in general, I like the episode because it made you think more than a lot of the other episodes did. You know, that you had the multiple timeline thing going on with like one Doctor Strange didn't do this, but the other Doctor Strange did do this, and so on and so forth.
Right. It's just like, I think just my biggest problem was that it kind of dragged on a little bit, and
it was a long episode. It was a long episode.
Yeah, it was a long episode, and it was a dark episode too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like, I think that like if they would have like shortened it just a little bit,
it would have hit that sweet spot for you.
Possibly, yeah.
So that ends with him and his universe just dying, imploding on itself.
Right.
He's just in like a pocket universe at this point. So jumping into episode 5, we have What If Zombies?
Exclamation point. I mean, this one is kind of like obvious. It's like Walking Dead meets Marvel.
Right. It's kind of a hodgepodge of pretty much every zombie movie you've ever experienced.
Right. And for me, it's just like zombies kind of... The whole genre of zombies has like really hit its fatigue. And like, I'm done with zombies.
Okay. Like,
you know, I watched like maybe the first like 4 seasons of The Walking Dead, and then I was done, dude. I was like, I'm out of this. Not doing it anymore. Please. But yeah, so this episode, you know, it was like, you know, kind of like the horror episode. I personally felt like you could have done without it. It was like the one that really, I mean, it had a little bit of an impact at the end, but not really too much.
So what's interesting about this episode is that when What If was announced, this was the story that I was most excited about. Because Marvel Zombies was a huge thing when I was growing up in terms of like What If comic books, you know? Like that was a whole like publishing campaign that was huge back in like the early 2000s. So I was really excited about like what they were going to do with What If Zombies, and we saw like in the early pictures of it like a zombie Captain America who was only in it for like maybe 20 seconds, you know? It wasn't anything special. As far as what the story is and everything, it was fun, you know? It wasn't like Tom Holland doing Spider-Man, so it was little... There's a certain character that Tom Holland brings to his Spider-Man that wasn't there in this, that kind of just felt a little hollow to me. A lot of people complained about the humor in this episode. What do you think about that? Like, all your friends are dying, your aunt is dead, your king just died.
Well, I mean,
people
like,
are still joking
I think, like,
left and right.
Like, really, like, the biggest humor that I can remember is, was it Scott Lang with his, like, headless
with
jokes.
His dad jokes? Yeah, okay. Scott Lang, you kind of have to have humorous puns and quips because that's just a character. It's also Paul Rudd too. Like that's all. Not okay. I don't want to say that's all he's good.
That is Paul Rudd's character, really.
But that is Paul Rudd.
Let's be real. Come on.
Yeah, it is Paul Rudd.
Most of his characters.
True.
But yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I agree. The episode was fun. You know, I didn't hate it, but I was just like, I had zombie fatigue. I was just like, I'm over the zombie stuff. I mean, there's just too many zombie shows, and I've just kind of, like, it really just amazes me that they just keep on coming out with more and more zombie stuff.
I think they tried to mix a little bit of I Am Legend, the movie, into this, where there was like a cure at this secret base, you know, that they had to get to, and they eventually get to, but then it doesn't work out for them or for whatever reason. And there were moments that I really liked. I liked the animation in this one quite a bit.
Zombie Scarlet Witch is scary.
Dude, yeah, that's Scarlet Witch is kind of scary in general, just because you never know with her, like if she's like cracked or not. But like obviously, zombie Scarlet Witch is very scary.
Yeah, and she kind of reminds me of something that you would see possibly out of a game like Left 4 Dead.
Yeah, yeah. I can see that. Maybe I don't know why she reminded me like of Silent Hill and stuff like that.
Yeah,
no, it's not really
maybe something along those lines.
But yeah, it was creepy. But overall, not one of my favorite episodes.
Agreed.
Let's move on. What if Killmonger rescued Tony Stark?
This one was actually a really good episode.
I think it was probably the best written of all the episodes. Because we have like the original Iron Man story. It's one of the best MCU movies, period. But like, what if Tony Stark wasn't abducted by the Ten Rings? You know, what if Killmonger, literally the Killmonger from Black Panther, just stepped in and saved the day?
Right.
And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was crazy because it essentially, since that moment happens in this show, you get no Iron Man.
Yeah, it's true. And I thought that Michael B. Jordan did a fantastic, like probably the best performance of everyone that I think was on the show. Michael B. Jordan did a fantastic job of like recapturing what made his character so great.
Right, and I loved how they inserted the Killmonger theme into there too.
Yeah, because dude, that's such a good theme.
Yeah.
That's such a good theme.
No, but yeah, that episode was like really, really cool. It really goes to show you, and you see it a bit in Black Panther, but like this really, like, I mean, this episode shows how much of a, like, I mean, he's super like smart, man. Killmonger is like, he's super smart.
Yeah. He's playing everyone.
Exactly. Like, I mean, and he plays the long game like really good. Like, I would say that while maybe not as sinister, he's really good at playing the long game like Palpatine, man.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. There were some lines that I really loved in this episode. I don't know if I can do them justice or if I even remember them properly, but when he's killing Tony Stark near the end of the episode, he actually, like, Tony Stark's like, he's talking about how like we're basically the same person, we're trying to do this and this and this. And my favorite line, I think, of the entire show was when Killmonger goes, "The difference between you and me is that you can't see the difference between you and me." And I was just like, that's really deep, that goes on a racial level, that goes on a like socioeconomic level, that goes on like just an MCU level. Dude, that was a sick line.
Yeah, that line spoke volumes.
Yeah, so I think just from that, this episode is probably the best written. But then it goes into like him overtaking Wakanda and like with the mech army and stuff.
Yeah, like, I mean, and just like how smart he played them. Like, he really, like, he pit the U.S. government against Wakanda with the ulterior motive of taking over Wakanda and essentially taking over the role of Black Panther, but like, like getting that power. And because I mean, he kills T'Challa and Rhodey.
Yeah,
or Rhodes. Sorry.
Well, no, I mean Rhodey is Tony Stark's nickname. Tony Stark's nickname for Rhodes.
Right.
So yeah, so you're good. But yeah, he does a lot of killing in this episode. A lot of backstabbing. He's basically like a master chess player. He's playing 3D chess with like 4 different people at the same time. So a lot of respect for Killmonger. Although there were like a lot of people a couple years back online basically like watching Black Panther and saying, wait, so Killmonger is supposed to be the villain, but he's like right. And you're supposed to think that, that was kind of the intention. Like, he's supposed to be partially right. And that's what makes his character compelling. But ultimately, he was a terrorist. He was ultimately going to attack random, cities with Wakandan technology for the sake of it, because he wanted to start a race war, essentially. And
right. and in all honesty, I mean, if you really want to think about it, at the end of the day, Thanos is kind of the same too, even though his was a little bit more extreme. He had a noble intent, you know. He wanted to kind of, you know, he's like, oh, the resources are running out, you know, the universe needs to be a bit more balanced so that people can survive. But his way of doing it was by offing half of, you know, all of existence.
When it comes to Thanos, at the end of the day, his was a little bit crazier. You know, his idea was crazier versus what Killmonger wanted to do was a little more feasible, and you were able to relate to it a little bit better. You know, in the sense that like he wants his people, that, you know, he says it's his people. He wants them to be able to stand up to the governments and like be their own nation or whatever. So you respect his point of view, but he's going about it entirely the wrong way. He's going into like terrorist mode and everything, and like overthrowing governments and stuff. So we see that happen in this story, but he's a lot more conniving in this story than he was in Black Panther.
Yeah, because he essentially got Tony Stark on his side to build up these drones,
these Gundam suits,
these robots. Yeah, and then he has a kind of, and you know, I'm pretty sure that this was part of the plan of the U.S. government, pretty much taking all the assets of Stark Industries, which therefore they take these robots and build up like an entire army of these versions that use vibranium and all that stuff. It was really smart. It was a good episode. It was really crazy, and it ends with him on top.
All right, so what if Thor were an only child? That's episode 7. This one's kind of just a fun one.
Yeah, this episode was hilarious. Like, it really was funny. Like,
it was fun. Yeah.
It's like, you know, I didn't like. I'll be honest. Like, I didn't hate this episode. It almost felt like a filler episode a little bit, but it was a funny filler episode. It was like, it really was hilarious. Especially when like Loki comes in as like the frost giant, and they're like, "Hey, what's up, man?" Dude, it was so ridiculous. Because Thor got along with like everybody. He got along with everybody, and his only crime that everybody was saying was like bringing the party.
Yes. So he brought the party, but to a point where like it was destroying like planets. Yeah. Which is hilarious to even think about.
And they had to bring in Captain Marvel
to stop him.
The fight was like, I mean, really just like the fight, you think about it, they're like, Captain Marvel's trying to take down Thor because he's partying so hard that it's taking down planets.
And he keeps calling her a party pooper. And...
Dude, that episode was hilarious. Like, I mean, there's not really like too much to it. It kind of follows a small bit of like the Thor movie because you know, like Jane is in it. You know, I mean, very like loosely, but it's hilarious though. Like, he comes and oh my gosh, bro, that episode.
Yeah, so essentially, like this, like the title of the episode it explains, like, what if Thor was an only child? It's basically like, what if Odin did not adopt Loki, and if Odin didn't adopt Loki, then there would be like no checks and balances with Thor. He'd just be an only child with free reign of the galaxy, and because of that, he just becomes Party Thor, and all his friends are actually changed too, because they're not half as serious as they are in like the movies that, you know, we've watched at this point. They're a lot more lax. Everyone is, you know, just a party animal, you know.
When Nick Fury goes to like stop him, and like Korg just like kind of knocks him out of the way.
That was good. That was really good.
Yeah, man, that episode was funny. Like, I'm gonna be honest. Like, that episode had me chuckling quite a few times.
And I loved the fight between Captain Marvel and Thor, because it's kind of something that, like, I've been, and a lot of fans have been thinking, like, can Captain Marvel take down Thor? And at the end of the day, it's kind of balanced. But at the end of the day, Thor has Mjolnir, who, you know, which is something that she cannot lift, which was the ultimate end to that particular fight between the two. You know?
Right. And it was funny how the episode does end because of like his mother, and he's like, oh, I'm over here with my study group.
Yes. I was dying laughing when he fixed the Leaning Tower of Pisa.
Yeah. Oh, like, because he thought he like messed it up. Yeah. Oh my god, it was funny. Like Captain Marvel like comes and is like, oh, these are the like the resources that you were looking for your studies. And he's like,
I put some PBS
like,
documentaries on there.
So small but contains so much. It was like a little tablet. Right. Oh my gosh, bro. That episode was like, it was so funny.
The fight scenes were actually a lot like Dragon Ball Z. I don't know if you noticed.
Oh,
like
yeah.
When they went into the desert, like it was totally meant to be Dragon Ball Z. Like that like
they're hitting each other and they're like flying across the thing. Oh my gosh, dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
That episode was that episode was hilarious though, man.
I did like that they brought back Natalie Portman. They brought back Kat Dennings, Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah. I was
Tom
Hiddleston.
Like,
dang. Yeah, you could definitely hear Tom Hiddleston. That man lives to do any Loki role.
Yes, I agree with that. So that was good. That was really fun. What's interesting though with Natalie Portman, she's basically like before this. Remember, she didn't appear in Avengers Endgame. They used like they used like old footage of her for that scene that they had of her in Endgame.
Oh yeah.
So she actually decided she wanted to come back to reprise this role for the show. But she didn't, like, a couple years ago for that movie. So I think it's just really cool that she's changed her heart about the Marvel Cinematic Universe at this point.
Well, she needs to change her heart because, we got that Thor movie coming out.
Yes, Love and Thunder's coming out, and she's playing we'll get to that when Thor Love and Thunder comes out. Anyway, let's close this out with a discussion of episodes 8 and 9 because both of them kind of
run concurrently. Not concurrently, but they're like one story.
Right, it's one story. So yeah, what if Ultron won, and what if the Watcher broke his oath?
Yeah, that was interesting because it was at the end of. Doesn't the end of this Thor one kind of end with? Yeah, it ends with Ultron coming in.
Right. Yeah. What do you think about that? Because that was probably a huge surprise for you.
Right. No, it was really cool, but it made more sense when you watch the last two episodes.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on the last two episodes?
The last two episodes were absolutely insane. Something that you would definitely see in an anime where like you're going from fighting on a planet to fighting in space and all of a sudden you go into different dimensions. Just absolutely bonkers. And it was crazy because like the whole time the Watcher is like watching this stuff, he's not there. He's like outside the boundaries of, the realities that are happening. Yeah. And so that wall gets broken in these last two episodes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he literally breaks the fourth wall, and he begins fighting with the Watcher, who ends up creating this Guardians of the Multiverse, which includes different characters from different stories. We have T'Challa from episode 2, we have Captain Carter from the first episode, we have, the Doctor Strange, Sorcerer Supreme, like monster dude from episode 4. Nobody from episodes 5 or 3. Oh no, that's not true. We'll get to that. We have Killmonger.
We get Killmonger. We get Party Boy Thor.
Yeah, and those are the Guardians of the Multiverse.
Oh man, Black Widow.
Yeah, Black Widow, but I don't
Black
think
Widow is like kind of. Oh wait. Gamora.
Yes. So actually, here's a fun little thing. There was a 10th episode that they cut from this season because they weren't finished with it. And that's the Gamora that you saw there was from that 10th episode that we never saw.
Okay. Yeah, because it was interesting because he kind of comes in and you see a Gamora with Tony Stark and his like Hulkbuster. I was like, what the heck are you doing there, Tony? What are you doing?
Right, yeah.
Like out of nowhere.
Yeah, so we didn't get to see that episode.
And they were with what's his name? Was it Heimdall? Oh no, not Heimdall. The guy that Peter Dinklage plays in Infinity War.
Oh, I don't remember his name.
The one that builds the Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah, I forget what his name is. I'm sorry, but yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah, at first I was like Heimdall. I was like, oh wait, no, that's the guy that controls the Bifrost.
Yeah.
No, no, I forgot. But yeah, he's creating this Infinity Stone like crusher,
Which is an interesting concept. They don't really explain it too much, but basically, like, if you get all the Infinity Stones in there, you can crush them. Only if, and we find this out later, they're from the original galaxy that you made it in, basically. So it's unique to each universe, basically.
Right. So the first part of this like two-parter is essentially Ultron just like destroying everybody. I mean, he kills everybody, and like he goes from Earth and he goes to like in his universe, like he destroys like everything, and like at the end, because his like prime directive is to make everything safe, and to make everything safe, it's like pretty much taking all life essentially, and so he completes that in his universe until he senses the Watcher like out, within the boundary out of the boundaries of the multiverse.
Which was a crazy scene where he was just like, "Who's that?" And he like breaks through the wall and starts attacking the Watcher. And
right, the Watcher like freaked out. Yeah, the Watcher like freaked out. He's like, "Oh my gosh, like really? There's no way."
Yeah. And okay, so going back to Anakin, I don't know if you noticed this, and it's kind of blink and you miss it, but when they're going through, like, they're jumping through realities in episode 8, there's two of them that are they go through Star Wars planets. One, they visit Felucia.
Do they really?
And the other they visit Mustafar and like pass by Vader's castle.
Dude, no way.
Yeah, look it up.
Have we officially like crossed Marvel and Star Wars, man? What is this?
I don't know.
The next thing I know, they're gonna when they reboot X-Men, they're gonna be like they created Wolverine in Mustafar.
Oof.
with
adamantium, yeah.
With vibro steel instead of adamantium.
I know it's just a cameo and everything, and
I know.
it, but
that's crazy though.
It was it's a cool thing.
It could only happen in something like that.
Exactly. So I don't mind it. At the end of the day, what they ended up trying to figure out like a way to get a virus into Ultron, basically, and they find a copy of Arnim Zola's consciousness that was pre-digital, and they were able to use that against Ultron, and it worked.
They were able to take him down, and then you started seeing Killmonger started. He had his like own motives.
Right? Yeah. The guy, dude, he's always like 2 steps ahead of people. Like he will let things play out.
Right. He's gonna help you
to see
now.
What happens. He'll help you now, but he has an ultimate goal in mind. And he'll let it play out. He'll let the scenes and everything play out just the right way. But ultimately, he's still an evil dude. And I don't know why the Watcher decided to choose him. It seems really random.
And I thought it was pretty cool that when Doctor Strange, he kind of like created this like protective barrier around them, but it looked like armor.
That was cool. Yeah, there was a lot of really cool stuff in this 2-part finale.
But it was really cool. Yeah, I mean, because we see what Ultron would be like if he entered what becomes a Vision in the MCU. Because remember, like you remember how it was supposed to be Ultron going into that body, but they hijack it and they put Jarvis into it.
What I kind of wish for this, and it also, when it comes to this episode, it makes me kind of sad that we never got Ultron be that crazy in the original Age of Ultron, because this was just another level of like villain, This was movie level villain, and I'm really
Right. And it's really sad because, like, man, let me tell you, James Spader did like a really good job, like just like voicing Ultron, and like the way he would like he was like very articulate, and I think he did like a really good job for Ultron
Back in Age of Ultron.
Yeah,
It's a shame they didn't bring him back though.
yeah. No, I thought he was a great voice for Ultron.
Right. So it's almost like I wish, because Age of Ultron is easily the weakest of the Avengers movies. In my book, anyway. I don't know about you. But for me, Age of Ultron is the weakest of the Avengers movies. And this story would have been, leagues ahead of that. Obviously, they needed to finish the Infinity Saga before they could do something like that. But Ultron was a real threat in this one. And I like that.
Right. He didn't really seem too much of a threat in Age of Ultron, and I mean, you look in the comics, and I mean, he very much so is a threat.
Yeah, for sure. Any final thoughts on What If or any of the particular episodes that we talked about?
No. I thought I would say at the end of the day, I thought it was interesting that they decided to go with the route of kind of like, it was almost like they had like their own individual episodes, but it all culminated into like an overarching storyline, like there's like it was almost like how they did it with the Infinity Saga, where each movie was kind of like contained, some bled over to others, but there was like an overarching story to it.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, and that's kind of the surprise of it all. Like, I didn't think that they were going to bring it all together at the end. I thought these were all like disparate stories that were just, like, oh, that was fun. Oh, that was kind of cool. That was really cool. Hey, that was kind of lame, but all right, whatever. They all kind of came together. Oh, I did like how they brought back zombie Wanda to attack Ultron.
Yes. I thought that was like that was a pretty cool and smart move. Yeah, that's what I said, that it has like a small, like a little impact at the end. Right. The What If zombies. Yeah, because they brought in like a whole bunch of zombies, and then they had zombie Wanda in there.
I think the only episode that they didn't have someone like return at the end of it was episode 3, The World Lost Its Mightiest Avengers. Or What If the World Lost Its Mightiest Heroes, because that was the only one where there was really nobody to use at the end except for maybe Fury, but that really didn't. That wouldn't have added anything to the final. And
then like Black Widow ends up kind of like joining that fight too.
Right, exactly. But Black Widow in episode 3 died. So
right. I do like that.
Black Widow, yeah.
I do like that from Peggy Carter's world, that her and Black Widow are like best friends.
That was cool. I
like
loved
that.
the little. There was a lot of dialogue stuff that I really liked with that. I think if any of these characters, in terms of like, will they make it into live action? I think the Peggy Carter, Captain Carter character is most likely to make it into a live action setting.
Yeah, I could see that. It's the most likely. The other ones are like very just kind of out there. The Captain Carter one was like probably the most like straightforward normal one.
Yeah, for sure. What did you guys think of What If? Please let us know on social media, on either Twitter or Instagram. Just look us up, Project Ecology. You'll find us, and we'll be sure to respond promptly. We want to continue this conversation online, because this is a show that we both enjoyed, and it's something that we're going to continue watching down the line as they make more seasons for it. But we have more episodes coming up, and we have plenty of episodes in our back catalog if you're interested in checking some of those out. But next week we're going to be doing David Lynch's Dune. This is not Denis Villeneuve's Dune, the movie that's coming out in theaters. It's the movie that came out back in the 80s. So it's going to be, we're going to check that out, and in a couple of weeks we'll review the new Dune movie that's coming out, and we're going to compare the two to see like what worked in one and what worked in the other, and what didn't work in one and what didn't work in the other. So I think that'll be a fun exchange of ideas there, and a fun comparison, because I don't think either of us have seen the original Dune. Have you ever seen the original Dune?
Yeah, a long time ago though. I don't think.
Okay, so-
I think I was at an age where I couldn't like truly appreciate it.
Got it. Okay, so you have seen it. I have no memory of it besides the fact that I've seen like stills and shots from it. But I'm excited to check it out for the first time. We'll be sure to record that for you soon so that we can get that out next week. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening. We hope you've enjoyed the episode. Please be sure to leave any feedback that you'd like, any positive feedback, specifically on Apple Podcasts or Audible, wherever you listen to podcasts. We love to hear your reviews.
And we will read them on the podcast.
Yes, we will. All right, Anthony, thank you for taking the time to record. Talk to you next week.
Talk to you next week. What if we don't?
Don't say that. All right, bye.
Bye.